So for our third talk, we're going to be learning a little bit about Arabic calligraphy from Muhammad. So I'm not going to take any more of his time. Muhammad, take it away.
All right, thanks so much. Okay, so I want to start with this. What do you think of this awesome Arabic calligraphy tattoo? I'll tell you why. It's a lot of tradition, a lot of history going into this one piece of art. Or is it? Well, first of all, let me tell you about how to get this. So you go to Google and you just search for Arabic calligraphy tattoos, and you find this in the first page, and it says, appreciate life. Beautiful message, right? It actually says, I am disgusting. So the other thing I have for you is, this is not Arabic calligraphy. This is just how you type it in Word, Microsoft Word. So why is it not calligraphy? The reason is, calligraphy is sacred. Calligraphy is poetic. It's majestic, and it's very strict. How do you know that? It's because this is how calligraphy looks like. See the difference? Calligraphy started thousands of years ago. The reason why it's sacred, it's being used till today, handwritten. The holy book of Islam is written in calligraphy. It's a sacred language, a sacred practice. The second thing is poetry. Anything that's worthy was written in calligraphy in gold. That's how calligraphy should be treated. Majestic because a lot of royals were sent correspondences in calligraphy. And finally, strict because of the amount of craftsmanship it takes to call yourself a calligrapher and to write something as beautiful as this. So let's talk about examples of calligraphy. There's something that's so simple, right? This is called a rak'ah, and this is how a lot of people write day to day. First thing you learn is rak'ah. It's so easy, just a few lines. And then there's the complicated. This is actually a mural I painted on my dining room. And it's a prayer that you say before you eat. It looks like a QR code, doesn't it? I know. So the idea here is this is a Kufic script, starts in Kufa in Iraq, and it's all about geometry. Why is it complicated? It's really hard to come up with the design. But once you came up with the design, it's easy to replicate. Once you knew how to build a single block, it's easy to build a house. And now you have this, the complex, the unique, the hard to master. This is why craftsmanship leaves a room for creativity, individualism, and just coming up with things that are hard to replicate. So you can see here a horse. Can you see it? Okay, this is called a zoomorphic calligraphy piece, and the reason is zoomorphism is huge in Arabic calligraphy. It actually has to do with the spirituality of it. Back in the day, in early days of Islam, depiction of humans and animals were prohibited. So now, what you see here is a depiction of a horse. That's basically how calligraphers resorted to calligraphy to depict such animals instead of drawing them or painting them. But you can see how complex this is, and it's hard to replicate. It's actually unique to the person who made it. This is how one of the scripts called Thuluth is drawn. Every single letter follows a strict set of rules. You still have some room for individualism, but at the same time, you can see how you have to follow these rules, otherwise you're writing a different script, or not calligraphy, just like what we saw in the tattoo. So in this case, you see like how it's all shaped in like circles, and you have a measurement in terms of dots that dictate the width and the height of each and every line that, or each stroke you take. This is the first letter in the Arabic alphabet, Aleph. Alpha, similar, right? It's just a straight line. Or is it? Let's actually break it down. First of all, to write this Thuluth script, you have to have the right pen. it wouldn't make it, or it wouldn't make the cut to use any pen. You have to have a specific cut of the pen that allows you to write that width. So the width of this character or letter is 1 point. You start first from the top and you go all the way down, and it's done in 2 strokes. You start here first. This is an accessory. It's more of a decoration, and you started at 45 degrees. As you move, this is one of the hardest moves in in ThoLith. The shape of the bin, if you can imagine, this is the width of the bin. So I'm going to use a hypothetical huge bin here to show you how I would write this. I would start like this, and then move it to end like that. And after this, you have the second stroke, which is 7 points high. The first 4 points move from the left all the way to the right with 1/4 of a point of slanting. Just moving like that in one smooth movement, and then you end up with this very thin ending at the end. This is the I in Arabic, and it literally means the organ I. So you can see how some Arabic letters mean what they actually sound like. And this is the eyebrow. It's actually drawn, it's not written. This is one of the exceptions in Arabic calligraphy where you have to draw it with the edge of the pen. Every single movement is calculated and has to be mastered. So how do you learn all of this? Sounds like a lot of rules. Well, it's easy. You find the master first. Find a mentor. Somebody under him or her you learn. And we have, by the way, a lot of female calligraphers who are amazing. A lot of people do not know that. And then you practice. You take your homework, you do it, you make mistakes, you go back to your master, and he will literally correct you on your piece of paper that you started practicing on. And it's made in red, just like code reviews, so you can see the diff. After you do that, you observe and you keep practicing, and you learn from your master. And next time you come with your homework, you're expected not to do the same mistake again. It takes years to advance. It takes years to master even a single letter. After you've mastered all of this, and only then, your master might give you the license to practice. It's called the ijaza, which means literally the license. Some people actually spend their lifetimes just waiting for this one mission to be accomplished. So you can see here why it's so important to have a mentor when you want to be a craftsman. Without a mentor, you cannot find that way. And these are the tools of the craft. So the same tools have been used for thousands of years. And it's carried down from one generation to the other. Very primitive, but very spiritual as well. Let's start with the ink. The ink is made from the soot that builds up on the lamps of the mosques. So you can see the burnt oil dripping, and then they collect that and make the ink out of it. That's the spiritual part of making the ink, and that's how it's still made today. The pen is made from reed that grows on the rivers of the Middle East. You cut it, and then you have to store it for 2 to 4 years in a very, very interesting substance. Does anybody here has an idea of what that substance could be? Like, why would you store reed in horse manure, for example? It actually dries it out, makes it, dry enough to soak in the ink and store it in the fibers of the reed. Because once you start writing, you want to have this ink stored, and you don't have to keep on refilling. And the way actually we cut and shape the reed after it's darkened and dried is an art on its own. Let alone calligraphy, you have an art and a mastery level on shaping this. I have gone through a lot of these pens just to try to shape them in this particular shape, and each script, each style has its own different cut that you have to master. So you can see here there's the edge, usually 30 to 45 degrees, and then cutting this hollow channel is just for decoration, actually. It's very important. We're gonna talk about that in a second. And then you have a single like cut right here. It's a channel for the ink, and then there's a reservoir that you have to drill. And then you flip the reed pin on the other side, and you make it pretty, for no functional reason, just to make it pretty. You have to cut it in a certain way. And then the paper has to be very smooth. They actually say the calligraphy should be like etching with a feather on the surface of water. That's how you have the ink running on top of the paper. Paper is treated with starch, and this allows you also to have corrections. So you can scratch off the part that you made the mistake in, and you can fix it with water. So let's talk about this quote here. Calligraphy is spiritual geometry. As you have seen already, the tools and the preparation it takes to just have the sitting is immense. And the reasoning is, it's the process of craftsmanship that makes you feel that this calligraphy is important to you. This master calligrapher, he says, if you shape your pen well, you will do your calligraphy well. But if you neglect your pen, you will have neglected your calligraphy. It's the same concept that makes you, for example, buy a $25 moleskin notebook to etch in some meeting notes. It's the importance of what you're doing that allows your craft to be important to you. And that connection is what allows you to take care of your craft. And I think this is the essence of craftsmanship. It's making that connection, caring for what you do, and having the passion to learn under the hands, or in this case, literally under the hands of a calligrapher. So I have one last thing for you. If you want to have an Arabic calligraphy tattoo, please contact me first. And if you want to learn more about Arabic calligraphy overall, please contact me. My name is Mohammed. Thank you so much.